I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today I am talking to the amazing Michelle Vezilj. She is a 4/6 Emotional Manifestor, Cross of Tension, and she's just freaking incredible. She does a bunch of different things. She's created a musical. She's a healer with her own business and just has such a brilliant story. Michelle uses mediumship to help clients identify ancestral trauma buried deep within the body, and then uses music healing techniques to transmute it. She works closely with the angelic realm and channels singing light language. As I said, there's so many things this incredible woman does. So please enjoy today's interview.
I am really excited to get chatting to today's guest because I've had a session with her and oh my God, she does everything. She's not even a manifesting generator. It's like, oh, how do you do all these things? So welcome Michelle Vezilj to the podcast.
To be here. I love this podcast. I love human design. It's very special.
I love having you here. I feel like there are a bunch of things that you said to me in the session that we did that I was like, what the, like so many things. But we're going to get to the work that you do. Before we dive into your origin story, I mean, on this podcast, I love to ask people about, that moment, that catalytic moment, that dark night of the soul, that challenge, whatever it was that sort of sparked them on this journey to who they are today. So I'd love to hear that in a moment. Before I do that, of course, I have to let the listeners know that you are a 4/6 Emotional Manifestor, Cross of Tension 3. So yeah, listen along, my Manny friends and everybody else out there that has a manifestor in their life. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
Being a manifestor?
Sorry, from that point, I really believe that we have that moment in our life. So many of us are searching for purpose, right? We're looking for our purpose, looking for our purpose, looking for our purpose. But really, our purpose begins in that moment that we might call the dark night of the soul or one of our greatest challenges or whatever it is. And I just love to hear people's journey from that place to who they are today because, often we can see their human design coming to life in that as well, but it also really normalizes that we all go through this journey. So those that are listening that are being challenged right now, like, wow, there's all this greatness ahead of me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned I'm a 4/6. So as that 6, that first 30 years of my life was extremely challenging. I went through almost everything that a person can go through, whether or not I fully dived into the experience or I just touched on it. And then as I went through my 30s, I understood that that was so that I could transmute it and then help other people transmute it. So my dark night started with my Saturn return around 28. I had a very big relationship that was concluding. That ended extremely traumatically. And then I ended up moving from New York to Los Angeles, shifting careers. My best friend died. I went through not being able to find a job, feeling very nervous and scared that I was going to end up out on the street. I was dealing with a lot of trauma having to do with sexual abuse. I'd been sexually assaulted in my early 20s, and I didn't tell anyone for 6 years. And when I finally did, it kind of opened the door of healing for me. But I experienced that sexual assault over and over and over again, because as we know, if we don't heal it, it gets brought to us to show up and be like, hey, fix this. And I wasn't conscious enough at the time to understand that that was what was happening to me. I just went into every new experience being like, this one will be different, even though I hadn't done the work or the healing on myself. And so after my friend passed away, I hit this place, this rock bottom. And it, you think you hit rock bottom and then you just keep going.
Oh my goodness. I so resonate with that. Like I remember thinking, oh, this is rock bottom. Oh, this is rock bottom. Oh, this is rock bottom for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, and so I was 28 and the end of that relationship and my friend passing was within the first 6 months. And a Saturn return goes from like 28 to 33. I think it's 28, 27, 28 to about 32 in 7 months. And so you go in as one person to your Saturn return and you leave as another. So I'm about to be 35 now. So I have been 2 years within this fully developed aspect of myself from my Saturn return. And I am feeling so much more connected. But so I wasn't spiritual at all. And I started doing yoga around the age of 27. I'd always been super athletic, and yoga opened me up. It was breath work that really brought me into my body. I'm a very physical person. And then I started hearing things. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've written a musical about my spiritual awakening. And I noticed that after yoga, my songs were better. My lyrics were sharper. They were clearer. They just felt different. And the way I used to describe it was, it felt like someone else was writing it. And at that time, I didn't realize I was channeling. And so that started to open. And then when my friend passed, all I wanted to do was talk to him. So I started picking up tarot cards. And then when I set them down, I'd hear things, I'd see things. That led me to doing readings for other people. And this whole time, my singer-songwriting career is really starting to take root in Los Angeles. I got to perform at Hotel Cafe, the Troubadour, which is just insane, the Comedy Store, and just all these beautifully, energetically fulfilling spaces. And still, I hadn't done that healing, where in 2020, right before the pandemic, I'm singing at the Troubadour and I have this one song called 300 Feet Tall. And 300 Feet Tall is a Disney song-esque. It's very much about a redwood tree. It starts as a tiny seed and it grows to be 300 feet tall. So if a tree can grow to be that big, why can't I also? And the booker at the Troubadour, I was opening for someone, and he was like, are you going to sing 300 Feet Tall? And I was like, no, I'm not singing my Disney song at like this venue. There's no way. I'm a serious musician. And he's like, I'll give you another song if you sing it. And so at the very end of the night, I sang 300 Feet Tall. It was the crowd's favorite. And my music manager came up to me after, and I do stand up in between my set. And he was like, you're writing a musical, right? I was like, oh, interesting. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, I guess I'll write a musical. And through that process, that's when I did my healing. I moved home to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm back in Los Angeles now, but I spent 3 years with family, really doing the work. I explored channeling, mediumship. I read so many books. I'm in a year-long hypnotherapy program, shifting actual subconscious beliefs. And I've taken my music healing, my singer-songwriting abilities, and brought them into the alchemy crystal singing bowls, which I actually sing with. So I channel the angelic realm with my beautiful bowls. I'm actually the resident sound healer at Soho House here in Los Angeles. And I have combined mediumship, hypnotherapy, and sound healing to help my clients to transmute trauma and to reprogram their subconscious patterning in order to manifest the lives that they've always desired. So we dig in real deep to that subconscious and we get things moving for them.
Wow. Far out. I just love it. Like this is not an ordinary story, and how these pieces come together. I just think it's just fantastic. So tell us, I want to know about this musical, to just be like, yeah, I'm going to just write a musical. That seems like that's a big undertaking. But I love what you said, that it actually helped you heal. And I would imagine that a lot of that process is actually how you work with clients these days. But tell us a little bit about how it unfolded. Did you just drop straight into your intuition, or did it start with a mind trying to be quite functional, and then you started to realize that you were connected? Like, tell us a little bit about that journey to trust the creativity and the, what was flowing through you.
Yeah. So when I was 28, I had a psychic reading, and she said, "Oh, you're going to write something that's passed down from generation to generation. It's a cult classic and it's based off of your life." And at 28, I was like, who would want to watch a musical about my life? Like, I'm not that exciting. But every time I would go and see a movie musical at La La Land, Greatest Showman, Singing in the Rain, I would see these and I would get full body chills. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to write one of these. So when she said that, it was just like this big confirmation that just it stuck with me. And then that music manager coming in, the universe was giving me signs all along that this was meant to happen. What I needed to do was to open my heart. I had shut it down through all of my trauma. And so when we are in our heart, we are open, we are available, and we are receiving that higher guidance. That's where mediumship lies, is in the heart. And so when I was doing my healing, I came up with I read this book about the Lemurians. The Lemurians are an ancient civilization, and they're said to have been on the planet 4 million years ago to about, I believe, 25,000 years ago when the continent sank. It's also tied to Atlantis. And the high priest Adama actually moved about 250,000 of them to an inner earth city called Telos that's located underneath Mount Shasta in Northern California. So I found all of this out during the pandemic, and I traveled to Mount Shasta and I had my own experiences there. And I woke up one morning and I heard Adama's voice in my head, and he said, "You will tell our story." I was like, "What?" Okay. Like, great. Let me just get on that. And, it's very overwhelming. I'd always written music, but a script, I'd taken a couple script classes, screenwriting classes, but nothing to this extent. And so at the time, what I did was I had like 15 songs that I had written, 15, 20 songs, and I just put them in an order that I thought would work in a story. So I started with that. And then when I heard from the Lemurians, I was like, okay, so where am I going to go with that? And then I started bringing in Greek mythology, and it has had many iterations where 3 years into the actual process, it has changed many times. I have an entire team put together for the movie. I'm working with a management company now. We are solidifying everything. The plan is to shoot in the next year or two. And then my dream is Broadway. And the log line, I know, right? Big aspirations. The manifestor in me is like, I'm going for it.
I hear you. Like I'm totally with you. I go for the big goals, but I'm like, yeah, I'm on this train. I want to see this happen, Michelle. It sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you. And I've seen such big visions of it. The plot, the log line, is a young woman's spiritual awakening leads her on a fantastical journey to a hidden alien civilization just in time to save humanity from an evil that's chased her lifetime after lifetime. So it's huge and epic.
My God, sign me up. Like, I want to. I'm buying all of it in every. Going to go. It sounds amazing. And
thank you.
I think the other thing that's so beautiful, like just listening to this story, is that that journey that you've been on to just trust it, to just trust what comes in and trust the intuitive guidance and the weird stuff. Because I really think that we are all in this place now. I was just listening to a podcast about AI, and they're talking about within a very short period of time, we're not going to know what's real and what's not. So the internet's just going to explode. It's going to, drama. And one of the things that, as I'm listening to this, I was like, yeah, wow, like things like human design and our intuition, they are so important right now, because that's how we're going to know. We're going to have to learn to trust our own guts, our own intuition, our own authorities, because it is getting harder and harder to decipher, what is true and what isn't true. And I mean, whether it's AI or not, we live in a world where we're being lied to every day, all day type thing. Yep. So I just love that. I love hearing that journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I actually, child trafficking is a big aspect of the musical. I've always felt very called to save the children. And so there's a big element of that. Sound of Freedom is out right now, helping to pave the way for the musical here. My friend that passed away, his name is Jerome James Lowe, and I actually wrote him into the musical. So he'll forever be alive through it. I feel like he helped me on the other side write it. He was like there whispering my ear. He was musical theater as well. I went to school for musical theater, and I had always wanted him to be on Broadway. And so when I get this to Broadway, he will have made it there. And that means the world to me.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Far out. It makes my little heart sing. And then the other part that I just have to, did you say that I've got written down that you're a 4/6? Are you a 4/6 or a 6/4? No, there is no such thing as a 6/4.
Yeah. I'm a 4/6. Yeah.
I was just had that moment that I thought I heard it the other way around. But what's so fascinating as well is, like that transpersonal profile, being driven to not only, reach this epic goal that you've got, but also because there's this person that you want to immortalize because he meant so much to you. And I just think that that's so beautiful. So you've got this incredible journey, this incredible musical, this mission that you're on, and you work with clients. Like, what do you do with clients? Like, how do you help people in the everyday through this other part of the work that you do?
Yeah. So I said that I was sexually assaulted in my early 20s. I wrote a song called Fire Goes to Die. It was my debut single, and it was written up in this amazing publication called Pop Matters by my friend Ryan Scott Lathan, and he called it Victim to Victor. And he titled it that way, and I fell in love with that phrase. And so I built a company called Victim to Victor, where I help clients come out of that victimization and really enter their own power. I give them the tools to find that within themselves. And with everything that I've been learning, so it started with mediumship. I was doing mediumship and sound healing as two separate things. So people could either get a mediumship session or a sound healing session, or they could combine them. And when I started combining them, I was seeing people's trauma, like what had happened to them. I was finding the root cause of things. And then I was lifting it up off of them with sound healing, with the light of the angels, bringing more light into the body, helping the density release, really helping with that ancestral trauma, those patterns. But the change wasn't permanent. I was finding that they were coming back every 2 to 3 months, having experienced similar issues. And it was because we weren't fixing the problem. And so I was looking at a therapeutic background. And as I was doing that, one of my mentors was like, well, have you ever thought of hypnotherapy? That may actually fit what you do better. I actually go to the college that Joe Dispenza went to. It's a year-long program. I'm currently a Master Hypnotist, and in 2 short months, I will have my full hypnotherapy certification. I'll be a clinical hypnotherapist. And so what my sessions look like is on the first initial session, I will explain what the subconscious mind is, how it functions, how it's formed. And then I do a little bit of coaching. I ask them what's coming up for them because I know that their guides, their angels, their higher self are going to have them bring it up to me. I don't need to bring it up. What they bring up consciously is ready to release. So I let them talk about some of the stuff that's happening in their lives. Then I'll use some mediumship to see where it's stemming from. We get to that root cause. Then I will lead them with my sound bowls into a deep state of hypnosis, which is just relaxation and calm. I'll do some light singing to release and let go of the energetic blocks, the resistance, transmuting it. And then I use hypnotherapy. I use their vocabulary to give them positive suggestions to the subconscious mind. And then at the very end, after I lead them up and out, I give them a really nice recording of the meditation we did, because hypnosis, the subconscious mind, recognizes repetition and reinforcement. And so they get that meditation to listen to as many times as they want until that behavior changes. So that has been my journey with an initial session. Usually my clients, they'll do an entire program, so 8 or 10 sessions. We meet every week for about a month, month and a half, or 2 to 2.5 months. And we just transform their entire lives. We watch, when you change the internal world, the external world changes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing that I'm constantly banging on about is, like, we can only experience out there what we're experiencing in here. So it's so important that we work on in here. Now, one of the things you said earlier, I know early on in my journey, it was one of my great frustrations. And that was that, we can go in and we can change our beliefs, or we can do certain work, but sometimes it doesn't stick. So, and I know for me, like, human design actually really helped me understand why things don't necessarily stick for me, as quickly as maybe somebody else. But I want to talk about this from the unconscious mind point of view. Obviously, being a hypnotherapist or a master hypnotist, we don't call you guys hypnotists, do we? Because that's like the magical dude.
Yeah. So there's a lot of misconceptions around hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And so that's also a part of my job in that first session, is to hear all of your thoughts and misconceptions over it and to calm you and let you know what it actually is, because it's so powerful. I've heard you talk about the powers that be and the control. And I just listened to one of your podcasts about fear. And it's very true that hypnosis is a secret tool. And so I believe that there is an agenda to kind of keep people away from that, because when we're easily controlled, when we're living in that fear, we're kept down, we're suppressed. And so now we're rising up. Hypnotherapy is becoming bigger than ever because it is lasting change.
I love that. So why don't we just break it down? Like, what is hypnotherapy and why does it work?
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. So, 88 to 95% of our everyday action is ruled by our subconscious mind. Within the subconscious mind is the primitive mind. That is our reptilian brain. This is where fight, flight, or freeze live. The subconscious mind, that's where the ego mind, that voice that says, do you really want to wear that? Is that really what you want to do? Do you think you have enough money for that? That's where that voice lives. And what it's doing is it's keeping you in your belief system, keeping you in your homeostasis. Because if you step outside of your comfort zone, it perceives death. The subconscious mind perceives the unknown as death. So it's keeping you safe. Within the subconscious mind is all of your beliefs that were formed from about the age of 0 to 8. When you're about 8 to 10 years old, you gain discernment. But it's around that age that we gain that logic, that decision making, and the critical mind forms. And then, or the conscious mind forms. And then we have this critical mind filter that goes over the subconscious. So we've got the primitive mind, the subconscious as a whole, this critical mind filter that goes over the subconscious mind that's formed from about 0 to 8. And then we've got the conscious mind. Now, that subconscious is 88 to 95% of our everyday activity. It holds all of those beliefs. The conscious mind is only 12 to 5% of our everyday, which means that most of our actions are coming from belief systems that were instilled within us when we were children. When we're children, we take everything literally. We take it directly. So when your parents tell you something, you go, "Oh yes, okay, I'm recording that." And you take it as word. When you become around 8 to 10, you go, "Wait, why? 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 That doesn't seem true." And you start with that decision-making process. And so, say when you were younger, you had a really bad experience with a dog. And now that you're older, you love dogs. But when a dog comes up behind you, you go, and your body involuntarily seizes. And then you turn around and you're like, oh, hi, puppy. What I can do with hypnotherapy, and we can do this with anything, relationships, work, habits, weight loss, you name it. But what I do is I put you into a state of hypnosis or a very relaxed brain state, a brainwave state. So we lower the brain waves. It's very similar to when you're in meditation. So we put you into hypnosis, we open the critical mind filter, and we feed you in a new positive suggestion. I love dogs. And then you have to use repetition and reinforcement to get it to anchor. So the first time you listen to it, it chills there for a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, this feels good. And then it's like, I'm good, and pieces out. The next time it sticks around a little longer. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is awesome. And then it pieces out. And then maybe that third or fourth time it goes, oh, I think I'll stay here. And then when a dog comes up behind you, you don't have that involuntary response anymore. It's pretty magical. And then you bring in the mediumship, you bring in the sound healing with the light language that I do with the angelic realm, and it just opens you up completely to a new realm. You are shifting your vibration to a higher frequency, which then aligns you to higher frequency opportunities and relationships. Your life just becomes, it soars.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I've got a lot of experience of, using more like language patterns through NLP and being hypnotized. And I've had so much success. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't, which I thought, like, I could never understand why it didn't work on me. And again, my human design, I have the gate 43, and the shadow is deafness. So I literally block, like I'm not easily influenced. So that made so much sense to me. But I love what you're saying. I love the repetition piece, because I think that's one of the other things, especially early in my journey. It was kind of like, well, everyone else looks like they're fixed in one go. Why am I not fixed in one go? But yeah, that piece of really understanding that we do need the repetition, because really everything we do is just a habit, so it's making sure that we're building that muscle.
Absolutely.
And when you were saying, I love when you were saying we open it up and we put in this new belief. We have to hear it a few times. So when you're working with a client, and let's say they have a belief like, oh, I'm not good enough. Do you have to like pull out the I'm not good enough, or does the I'm not good enough kind of dissipate or disappear over time with the, alignment to this new belief that I am enough, let's say?
So I would say that I help them transmute it with the sound healing and the angelic light language that I use. With sound healing, with hypnotherapy, what is sometimes a misconception is a lot of people think it's light and love all the time. That's called spiritual bypassing. When we have trauma, when we have this dense energy in our body and we do a sound healing, what it's doing is it's bringing more light into the body. When we bring more light into the body, darkness must leave. So there is a process of transmutation that happens. So with sound healing, they say it's anywhere from 7 to 21 days where the energy is leaving. And so your guides, your angels, they work with you in order to bring in experiences to help you release the suppressed emotion, because it's the suppressed emotion that's sitting there heavy in your body. And when we release it, we let it go, then the cells actually shift and change. So I release it in that way. But with the hypnotherapy, sometimes I will say, you have this illusion that you are not enough. That is not true. I'm letting you know that here and now, that is not true. It is something that you were told, and you are enough. And then I would use their vocabulary to lay in those positive suggestions, because the subconscious mind only recognizes your own vocabulary. So if I were to, they teach us rapport. So when you say something, sometimes I'll say it back to you, because, sometimes teachers will hear something that someone says, and then they'll channel in a higher knowing of it back to them, but it doesn't resonate. You want to use the exact same language that they're using, because they're using it for a reason. So I speak with their vocabulary to their subconscious mind.
I love that. I also think, you saying that, I think this is one of my, I don't know what the word is. Maybe I'm going to use frustration with, this industry that we work in, is that people are telling everyone like, well, this is the belief that's blocking you. This is what your belief is. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You have to let them say, this is my belief, because the nuance, even just the tone of the way they say it, is important to the way it's anchored in. So I think that's so important. It's also why I'm creating this transformational human design, because what we can look at through the frame of human design and looking through all the gates and understanding the fear journey to love through every expression of our design, that's how we can access our own language, oh, wow, so this is the shadow. What do I believe about that? Or what resonates for me? Which really helps people, I believe as well, like let go of these things, because when they say it the way they've been either telling themselves or they've felt it or experienced it, then they can release it, because it feels like it was theirs in the first place, to let go of, like they have power over it. The other thing, as you were speaking, I just got this beautiful vision of, as you're working with people, and obviously I don't know if this is true, but this is what I was, what just popped into my head was, that releasing and, as you say, bringing more light to the body to help heal, whatever trauma it is, or change whatever belief system it is, but also with that frequency of the sound, like it's almost like I could see it like reverberating almost the little grains of things away and off of people,
Yes. I love my alchemy crystal singing bowls. So they each have their own little souls, their own little intentions. I have 8 of them. So they work together as a team, they work individually, and they work with me. And sound healing, they have done studies and experiments on this. It really does shift you from head to toe. I actually have the sound bowls underneath every song in the musical, so that you come in as one person, you leave as another.
Wow.
So they're just, I'm blown away by them. I can feel their presence. They call me when I'm meant to get a new one. I'll usually have a dream, or I can hear them. And so I have the Sedona Crystal Temple in Sedona. They have an incredible collection, and I always order from them. I'll go in, I try a bunch of them, and I talk to them. They're like my children. So they're very, very special. I have massive respect for them, and they help me tremendously. I have learned that they are a tool, and that I am the vessel in which a lot of this healing is coming through, because for so long as a manifestor, I've given my power away. I was like, oh yeah, no, it's the bowls, they're doing it. But that's not true. The energy, we're working as a team. The energy is coming through me, and especially that singing light language. It's streaming through my body. I can feel it. I can feel it red hot, and I can see when I'm lifting certain things off of my clients, which is pretty tremendous.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just an incredible experience.
Oh my God, I love it. I love that you see them as an extension. Like, again, as you were speaking, I was imagining or seeing it's like that's part of your team. They're part of the team, you know. And again, I feel like this is the world we're moving towards, when we're starting to understand that, all of these things that we think are just random things. I have crystals everywhere. They're really not random. We really are in relationship with them, and we're sharing energy, and we're, it's a give and take. So I love that. Now, you have touched on light language a couple of times, and this is something for me that I'm fascinated by. I find it absolutely amazing that it just seems to just appear in some people, and all of a sudden, people just start speaking this light language. I actually had one of my team members recently was working, one of the masterminds that I ran. The girls are so tight. They are such good friends, and they do all this work together. And, one of the girls has created this incredible business, and all the other girls have been going to her. And one of the things that she did with one of our coaches, Britta, was helped her. And I don't think that Amy ever mentioned the light language, but she was doing all this light healing on her, as in light sort of frequency. And all of a sudden Britta started speaking this light language. It was amazing. And I was kind of like, I always think in the past, I was like, is this gibberish? Like, really? Is people just making this shit up? But then when I had the experience of someone who, I love and trust, and just listening to her speak this light language, and I could feel it in my body, I was like, okay, I'm curious. So can you give me a bit of an education? Like, what is it, and how do you, like, can some people do it and other people can't? And then, maybe how you work with it and use it.
Yeah, thank you. Light language, everyone can do it. Everyone can channel. Everyone has intuition. We are, with a lot of our gifts, we have certain skills that we are more meant for, that are meant to be expanded, but we all have these abilities. And so I also, when I first started seeing people do light language, I was like, I don't know, that doesn't look real. Like, what is that?
I love that.
I don't know. And then I was in Sedona and I was like, I just want to try it. I'm just going to speak it. And I was sitting on the mountain and I just started allowing. And in order to do it, I got into a meditative state and I had to step away. I had to allow Michelle to step back. And as I was pulling it through, I was judging what I was doing. And I was like, okay, am I really doing that? Okay. I feel like I might be making this up. But as I sat with it, as I attuned myself, as I became more confident and I just allowed and I stepped back, I felt it through my body. And all we're doing is we're channeling different beings, different activations through us. Our words are so powerful. That's why it's called spelling. We're casting spells. So when we have intention and we either speak or we sing this light language, this language, it just comes through and it brings that light in those activations. Now, with my bowls, I started just singing as a singer-songwriter. I'd sing different tones and then I had always felt the angels present. And so I intentionally tuned into the angels and I said, sing through me. And I could feel it in my whole body that that's what I was doing. I can tell when I'm plugged into that and when I'm not. There is it's like my body gets really warm and I'm more grounded. My cat just meowed to confirm what I was saying.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And, I was in different kind of light language comes through depending on who I'm healing and where I am. So most of the time it's the angels, but I remember I was in Mount Shasta and I was in this cave and I felt this energy just go into my body and it opened my throat and it was ancestral. This was like deep and guttural. Whereas the angelic realm was like high and airy and like more soprano. And I remember I had to tell the beings that were channeling through me, my voice doesn't work like this. This is too much for my voice because it was belting. It was like, And I was like, we need to relax this and bring this to a state that I'm comfortable with. And then I felt it and then peter out. And so it's something I've grown and played with and experimented with. And it's something that I feel is the next big thing. It's a big part of the musical. I'm sorry about that. And she is really
Don't be sorry.
Everything.
She's welcome. She's totally welcome. Like, I love it. I am such a big believer in, what happened, everything that needs to happen is going to happen. The energy that we need to be here will be here. So she's welcome.
Yeah, she's been dealing with, actually, maybe this is meant to be brought up. She has fleas right now. And that has been, I'm in Los Angeles and fleas are rampant here. And when I looked up the spiritual meaning of fleas, they are energy vampires and they represent codependency. And I am a narcissist survivor, abuse survivor, and I have had to transmute a lot of that. And I recently went through another up level with codependency, recognizing it within myself. I do bring in a lot of clients who have dealt with a narcissist, whether or not that's a parent figure, a partner. And the more that I come in touch with that myself, the more I'm able to help other people. And so I'm going through this Lion's Gate, which is from July 28th until August 12th, which is when she got fleas, or when I at least found them. Yes. And what's so interesting is that I was visiting, I found out she had them, and I was going on a family trip to Canada. And I was going to be visiting the narcissist that I had experienced growing up. And I did some healing with that while I was there, and come home, and now I'm cleaning the apartment and I'm ridding the apartment of the fleas. And so that has been a very therapeutic process for me. And I am embracing it because I have to, and also because I know that it's only going to help my clients the more that I step, because there's always deeper layers of codependency. And so it's a tough one.
I hear you. I am a recovering codependent over here.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely. So maybe that's why she's meowing, so that I could talk about
I love it as well. Like, yeah, maybe. And, I do feel like there's a bit of relevance for that, that message in there for me, to be honest. But I also love that, that you take these experiences in life and you learn the lesson. One of the things the girls, when we were walking the Camino, every time something happened that, we hadn't planned for or was maybe challenging or something, they would just look at me with a smirk and go, "So what's the lesson, Emma?" And I'm like, I see everything in life as, something, someone, the energy, the angels, your team, whoever it is that you believe in, like there's a message that's trying to be communicated to you. Mm-hmm. So I just love that. I love that your cat gets fleas and you're not like, "Oh my God, my cat has fleas." I mean, because really, who wants to go through that process? It's a big process. But it makes it so much more powerful when we can actually look at these things metaphorically and say, okay, well, what's the message or what's the lesson here? And I just love that.
Well, also cool. I'm having a fruit fly infestation. It's just been bug central over here. And fruit flies are protection and they're survivors. And so as I'm dealing with these fruit flies and these fleas, I'm like, okay, I'm protected from the fleas. Like, what's going on? And yes, the universe is happening for us and not to us. And that easier said than done. I had my grandmother pass away, and these fruit flies and these fleas and all this stuff came up. And the entire time I was like, this is happening for me. I know it. Let me find the lesson. And of course, I didn't bypass. I have let myself fear. I fear, sadness, frustration, anger. I screamed into a pillow yesterday. I'm letting myself feel all of it because I know on the other side, I'm being prepared for an up level. And I actually got news of that up level today. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. I'm doing this in order to bring forward something else.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, for all of those listening, it's such an important message, like over the years, my dark night of the soul was 28 as well. And I'm 48 now. So there's been 20 years of this journey. And, there's a number of challenges going on in my life at the moment. And it's just that ability, that muscle that's been built over the years to not see it as, oh my God, there's all these terrible things happening. But okay, well, what's the opportunity in this? Or what am I here to learn? Or what am I not doing? Like one of the things is something that's happened before a few times. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, I can't take the same path that I've taken before. I've got to do something different.
Yeah, that's a big one. Noticing the pattern. When you become conscious of the pattern that you've been living in, you can then change it. That is so, when you make a different decision, it all changes. It's amazing. So I'm glad that we're on the same.
Yeah. And I love that because in my, like everything that's going on in my life right now, what's crazy is the things that are coming in, with making that different decision and taking a path that I haven't taken in the past, actually being like, oh my God, now all of a sudden, all of this space has been made and all of these things that I've been working on are just sort of dropping in what seems like effortlessly, but there's been a lot of work to get to this point.
100%.
But I just think that this is what's so important about our spiritual journey and doing the work. And, I know early on, I always would go and work with a practitioner, or I would work with a coach, or I would do something. And, if I didn't get results instantly, I was like, well, that's just crap. It's not working.
Yeah.
Or especially early on in my coaching career, I was like, I was the hardest working coach out there. Let me tell you, like, I was like, if I can't fix this shit in a really short period of time. And, I very quickly learned, oh my goodness, it's not my journey. It's not my responsibility. Yep. I have to help people help themselves, teach them to fish, not just give them a fish. And I really feel that as we start to wake up and we go through this process and we work with all these different modalities, when we can accept that we need to be where we're at in our journey, that we're here to learn the lessons, to pay attention, to work with different practitioners. And because I'm a line 3, one of the other things that I've learned is that sometimes it's just something about that experience. So I worked with a coach many, many years ago, and he was meant to be amazing. Loads of my peers were like, oh, he's brilliant. And I coached him. It was this really weird experience, like we got into this coaching program, and I was like, I was the one doing all the work. Like I was actually coaching him, vice versa. And I look back at it now and go, wow, oh my God, I learned so much from that because I didn't stay in that place like, oh, well, he was crap. No, he wasn't crap. He was exactly what I needed at that time to learn how to become a better coach or whatever it was. So yeah, I just think that it's so important for us to be on this journey. It's so important for us to be paying attention and to be working with all sorts of different modalities and trying these things out and having fun and, this playful way that we can work with all of these things.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on
Please.
That because so teaching them how to fish. When I first started having clients, I felt like I had to prove myself with mediumship because that's often when they're like, all right, well, show me what you can do. And so I felt like I needed to give them the answers. And then I realized that I wasn't helping them at all by doing that. And so I'm still shown what is the guidance I'm meant to give them, but now I ask open-ended questions instead. I lead them to it because it's more effective. It roots deeper if they speak it first. So I do not tell them, I will ask them questions. It's so important. Also, when I get sent a client, sometimes I've had those clients where I'm like, oh, something's off here. And it's a lesson for me. I remember once I kept reaching and reaching and reaching. And I talked to my mentor and she's like, why do you care so much? You need to just give them the information, help them, and then leave it, detach from it. What you're doing is you're gripping. And so that was a huge lesson to me, is that every session is going to be just as it is meant to be. And I can't control it. I have to surrender and I have to let it go and know that they're coming to me for a reason. Whatever that reason may be is not my responsibility.
It's so true. And I think that is it's that line that we must be very conscious of as any sort of practitioner, where we need to take full responsibility to be in integrity.
Yes.
And at the same time, we have to know not to take the responsibility of our clients, because that's why they're there. They're there because they're not taking responsibility for something,
Yeah.
and that's what they're with us to empower them to do, I've had this experience recently where I had a short session with Ainsley McLeod, who is this incredible. Oh my God.
I don't know him personally,
amazing.
But I know of him. Yes.
Oh my God. He's amazing. And within moments of him opening his mouth, he helped me heal trauma that I have experienced my entire life, and I've hunted it down. Like I have looked for it. I've gone into all the crevices. I've done all the meditations. I've seen all the practitioners. And he says this one thing, which of course I will share on the podcast for those listening, when he comes on very soon. But I think that this is it, like we just have to be willing to be on the journey, and we will get our healing. We will get our purpose. We will get our the things that we came here to do and be and have, as long as we're patient, as long as we're willing to be the student,
Patience is a huge thing. That's what I'm realizing both with the fruit flies and the fleas, is I can't speed up the process of eliminating them. And so you can look at it like trauma. So say these bugs are trauma. I can't force it to leave. I have to be patient with it. I have to know every day it's going to get better. Every day, a little bit more of it is going to be transmuted. And I have a knowing that it's going to happen. And you mentioned something. So the things that we want on our journey, our soul desires that because it's already ours. And so we're bringing that in. So oftentimes when I desire something and I can see it so fully in my mind, it exists somewhere. Our brain cannot imagine something that does not exist. And so I see myself playing the bowls in a giant show at the Hollywood Bowl one day. I don't know if it'll be the Hollywood Bowl, but I will perform on a stage that big doing what I'm doing because I desire it. And I detach from it. I don't know what's going to happen, how I'm going to be led there, who's going to bring it in. I just know that it's going to happen on some platform where I will get to be of service to people because my intentions are pure. I want to help. And it is a dream of mine. It is my desire. Oftentimes when clients come to me and they're like, I really want this, but it's not working for me. The universe can see so much more than we can. You desire it because it's yours. We have to let it go because if we focus so fully on the door of, I want this, I want this, I want this, and the universe is like, but if we open this door, it's way better. This door is more of what you want. But because you're so focused on this door, I can't open this door. So when we detach from it, then the universe goes, okay, here you go. This is even better than what you wanted.
Oh my God, I love that. And I would say that is my greatest manifestation lesson. I have done, I would say, nearly every manifestation course out there. I would also say that I'm a cracking manifestor and I do very little now because I'm the classic overachiever. I tried too hard. I did too much. I focused too hard. And now over the years, I just say something and in whatever period of time, and sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's not, but it just unfolds, as long as I'm willing to take the aligned action, as long as I'm doing the thing, it unfolds. And I think that that's what's so important for us to stop trying to control our journeys and just trust. And the thing that I wanted to say about what you said, like our desires, we already have them. They're already ours. I sometimes think I reflect on my journey that all the big things, all the great manifestations, all of the, this life that I've created, if I really reflect on it, there wasn't a moment that I sat down with my journal and said, right, what do I want? And I wrote it on a piece of paper. That didn't happen. And I've done that a bazillion times. However, all the things that really have the deepest meaning for me, that have changed my life, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever meaning you want to attach to it, they were all things that appeared in my being. They appeared in my mind. And they were just like, oh my God, that's the thing. And one of the things you said to me that kind of freaked me out was the thing about the TV show, right? And that's on my list. Like, I want to have my own TV show. I have no idea when or how. I've just been booked on a show in the States.
Congratulations.
That I'm very excited about. Thank you. But it's like, wow, what did I really do on the daily? Like, yes, my team's been working on it, but it's like, I just know it. I had this experience recently where my youngest son was having horse riding lessons, and I've ridden horses all my life, but I gave it up about 7 years ago. And I was like, wouldn't it be lovely? Wouldn't it be lovely to have a horse again? Actually, I'd like that. And for a moment, driving home one day, I was daydreaming about the dream horse because I've had so many and ridden so many horses and trained so many horses. I was like, what would that horse be like? Within a month, I bought that exact horse and I didn't go anywhere or do anything. It just turned up in front of me and I was like, what is going on? And for me, that's the evidence. When we talk about desires And when we want to manifest, we always want to get clear on what we want. But that's really important because we need to get the brain focused on what we want as opposed to its default setting and what we don't want. But please, people, trust what just appears in you in whatever way it appears, whether you hear it, you see it, you feel it, you know it, it doesn't matter. But trust that, you know, like you're musical, it would be probably the same, right? Like that you just, you hear someone say something and you're just like, oh yeah, that's obvious.
100%. Well, see, it's just again, everything happens for a reason. Like that's highlighting exactly what you're saying. And I'm going to take that as an alarm for the musical. Like I have seen, so at first I was writing it for stage. I wrote a stage version of it. I see it in Broadway theater. I see it so completely, so fully. And then things started shifting in the world. And all of a sudden it transitioned into a film. And I was starting to see it in that way. And it all started coming together. And now I've been talking to this management company, and it makes so much sense that it would be a movie first, get it the foundation it needs, get it the fan base, and then transition it to Broadway. It's all I have this intense trust and knowing on this. I don't have it for everything. I'd love to, and I'll use this as a way to start to bring it into my life. It's this I was put here to do this. With my healing company, I feel that way too. I know I will always be taken care of. I will always have clients. It may transition. Like sometimes when clients are slow, the universe is like, okay, we're opening a new door for you. Like when the hypnotherapy came in, I was like, oh, okay. I meant to add a whole new arm to my company. I just know because my intentions are good. I just want to help. That's why I wrote it. I want to help people. I want to make people better. Humans are so beautiful. There's so much good in mankind. And I see it all the time, all around me. And I just want to help us get there more often because there is also this underbelly. And I want to help us transition into that light. And through that is the pain of that transition, the suffering. And I'm here to help bring that light during that suffering to let you know that you will get to the other side. There is another side of this. There's an up level.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. I could talk to you all day, Michelle. I mean, I haven't even asked you about the mediumship, which I was going to, but now we have run out of time. But thank you so much. When is this? Do you have any idea when the movie is going to be happening? Like, how do we find out about it? How do we follow the journey? Do we follow you on social media? Like, tell us how we can stay in touch with this growing, and of course, tell people how they can work with you in your healing business too.
Absolutely. So with the musical, the goal is the next 2 years to go into production and then to move into post and distribution. So I'm hoping everything works slower than you think it's going to. You know, manifestation, it's like, okay, it's already here. I can feel it. And then it takes a year or two to bring it into the actual physical reality. So I'd like to say 2024 is when we'll film. And we could, but it may be 2025. It all depends. Right now we have a strike. So we've got the writers and the actors strike. So that's kind of holding things in place right now. And I believe in the divine timing, divine plan. So it's called 300 Feet Tall. My goal is Netflix, but I'm open to the universe and where it wants it to be. I'd love it to be in theaters. So we will see. You can find me through the links in this podcast. For anyone who's listened today, my 2-hour session with mediumship, hypnotherapy, and sound healing, and that meditation, it's usually $4.95. But to anyone who mentions Emma and this podcast, they'll get it for $3.95, so $100 off. And
wow, that's very generous. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. And in celebration of the Lionsgate, which the 8/8 portal was yesterday. And so I wanted to be able to honor those energies. And anyone can have a gifted 20-minute consultation with me where I will listen and see where you're at. I will give you more of an understanding of where I am, what I see our journey being together. So we can have that conversation. Just email me. It's info@michellevezilj.com. You can check out my website at michellevezilj.com. I've started doing TikTok for like daily sound healing and some motivational, inspirational things. If you want to be on my email list, sometimes I do virtual sound healings, which are really amazing. The energy definitely transfers through the online ethers. So if you want to stay in touch with me, please do so by reaching out through email, or you can go to my website and do the contact form there. I'm just really looking forward to meeting a bunch of new people. I really align with you, so I know that the listeners who align with you will be on the same page as me.
Yes, I'm sure they will. I'm already like, right, I think I'm signing up for another session. I want to do this, that, and the other. So thank you so much, Michelle, for being here, and so much, love your way for this beautiful movie that you're creating. So, and all the work that you're putting out in the world. So thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you. Oh, and one last thing. I have on Spotify, it's called The Violet Flame. It is a singing light language soundtrack for your listeners. You can find it on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Music. I will connect you to it, Emma, so that you can put it in the show notes. But it's a 5-minute transmission to activate what's called the violet flame, which is an energy that helps with the transmutation of those denser energies within the body. So listening to that and just sitting with your eyes closed and breathing will allow you to transmute what's being suppressed in the body currently and help to align you with what I call the highest timeline, or your greatest possible outcome for this lifetime.
I love all of that. Thank you so much, Michelle.
You.
Thanks everyone for being here today. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.